Before we get into the video, I need you guys to do me a favour. Number 1, like the video. Also comment, let me know your thoughts on the case. The football world showed that teams can come together to support a player in a time of need. Liverpool football player Luis Diaz, who joined Liverpool from Porto in 2022, had to contend with a traumatic experience, the fact that his mum and dad were kidnapped by a left-wing political group called the National Liberation Army, or ELN for short, on October 28th in Colombia. The situation was described as very serious, dire even, by Colombia's Interior Minister, Luis Velasco, much so because the whole world was watching and waiting to see what would transpire. At the time of the tense incident, local reports in Barrancas says that Luis Diaz's mum and dad were taken by 4 men on motorbikes who appeared to block the car the parents were travelling in. The parents were ambushed. Other reports say that the Liverpool player's mum and dad were taken when they were at a petrol station buying watermelons. After, the men drove away on the motorbikes again on October 28th. As soon as the incident transpired, Colombia's army, military and police joined forces, and they went to find the political group responsible. The president also enlisted specialist teams that deal with kidnaps, as Luis Diaz is considered to be one of the most famous players in the country. So of course, they need to do everything to keep them on the good side. Now hundreds, thousands of fans took to the streets of Barrancas to demand the release of Luis's parents. Now Luis's mum, Selena Miranda, was freed later that night. However, Luis Diaz Sr., who shares the same name as the son, football player, is said to have been held captive by 4 armed men. There are reports that they may have been in the jungle. The army commandos went to the jungle and also patrolled the borders to stop the ELN from trying to enter Venezuela. While the world waited, Luis Diaz made a strong decision to play against Luton and actually come off the bench and score a goal. The match ended 1-1, which was dedicated to Luis's dad, a message to the ELN to free Luis Diaz Sr. Now, those that took to the streets were wearing white t-shirts and carrying balloons, marching for the release of Luis Diaz Sr. A reward of 200 million Colombian pesos, which equates to roughly 40,000 British pounds sterling, was offered to anyone who had information of where the dad was being taken and kept. Now, Diogo Jota also dedicated Liverpool's 3-0 victory over Nottingham Forest to Luis Diaz's dad by holding up the t-shirt with Diaz's name on it, along with the number 7. At the Northern War Front, the ELN unit, who had Luis Diaz, had then contacted both the United Nations and the church representatives regarding the release of Luis Diaz. And on November 2nd, the ELN says that they were making steps to release the dad while trying to avoid incidences with the government officials. They also said that taking Luis Diaz Sr. and Selena Miranda was a mistake, probably because of how famous they were. Now, the unit emphasised that Luis Diaz was not a risk, but the Colombian army and the police force and the interference from the president and the military, of course, were delaying the release and making it harder for Luis Diaz to be kept safe and unhurt. Regarding the hostage situation, Liverpool player Diaz had this to say: "Every second, every minute, our anxiety grows. My mother, my brothers, and I are desperate, anxious, and have no words to describe what we are feeling. This suffering will only end when we have him home with us." Thankfully, on Thursday, which was November 9th, after spending 12 days in the hands of guerrillas, 58-year-old Luis Diaz says that kidnappers had advised him to remain calm. He says that he had no sleep and had to endure a lot of quite difficult horseback riding, lots of mountains, rain even. He did mention that the ELN had treated him good, and now the whole point of the kidnap was because the ELN and the government of leftist President Gustavo Petro, who is trying to put an end to Colombia's 6th decade of internal conflict that has left more than 450,000 people dead. They did it to send a message. And sadly, this would probably stifle the peace talk between the president and the ELN now. Stay safe.